Alright, I thought I'd take a minute. Hope you can hear me over this thing. During our time of quarantine, I decided to take on a little project. I've never built a gas forge before, so I decided to build one. I wasn't satisfied with the other gas forges. I had one pretty decent one, but then I've had some others that weren't so great. And I wanted to build one that met my needs, particularly. And I decided I'd just build it. I had a lot of scrap around the shop, and I wanted something that was pretty heavy, because one of the problems I've found with gas forges is that, you know, around the holes where where you put your work in and out and stuff like that, if they're using like 1/8 inch or even thinner sheet metal, it just doesn't last. It just burns up. If you're using them like I do, which is commercially, I mean, I do this for a living, and I wanted something that would just hold up. What I'm doing right now is I'm doing a final firing on my HT100 ceramic coating that I put in there, which increases the temp of the forge. But basically, I made a forge with a, instead of a door that folds down or lifts up, I put a hinge up here, and I'll show you in a little bit, but you just grab the handle and you pull it down. I've got a couple of locking bolts here that I don't tighten them real tight, but it keeps the door just pressed up against, so there's not a lot of heat loss right here at the top, because that's what I found in the past. Again, on thinner, cheaper forges, they just burn up, and I'm just kind of tired of that. The top plate, again, 1/4 inch. Everything's made out of 1/4 inch plate. I just had some laying around the shop. Made the bottom. I made this where it comes apart. The top comes off, the bottom comes off, and then you can replace what I've got inside. You see this is pretty thick right here. It's because I have 2 inches of insulating fiberboard in the bottom, and then I have full-size kiln brick, high-temp brick at the top. That's what that surface is, so it's hard. Also at the back side, you know, it's a little thicker at the back. I've got, again, 2 inches of insulation at the back, and I've got 2 inches of insulation in the top. And then when I did that, I took some leftover, I don't know what you call it. It's an insulation, but it's soft, more fibrous. I put that around on top of between the metal and the top insulating board, just to fill in any cracks. Because like right now, this thing's hot, but I can put my hand right against the back of this forge. It's just not bleeding heat through. And I think the top in the middle is kind of the same. Yeah, put my hand on top. This is getting warm, but it's not near as hot as my other forges was run. So the heat is staying in the forge, which is where I need it to stay. I just cannibalized this valve system off an old forge I didn't like, but the burners worked fine. You can make these things. I didn't make them because I had them, and I was throwing the other forge away anyway, so I took them off and just re-drilled. They're 3/4 inch diameter burners, so it's about a 1 inch, a little over 1 inch OD. So I put those down, made new collars, set it on there, adjusted. And you can see I got a pretty nice flame in there. It's got a pretty nice point. They're burning pretty well. I don't even know if I'm running 7 pounds right now. Let's see. Yeah, I'm only running about 5 pounds of pressure right now on that. And basically I'm just doing a last coating of my stuff. I'm going to shut this off for a minute, and I'll say a couple of things. It's gotten hot enough to set that up, so I turn my gas off first. All right, there we go. I'm going to shut my valves off up here, and so I'm going to have to I'll let it cool down. Normally these may be a bit warm. Let me see. No, they're actually not too bad, even with that heat. I just put these little set bars on, these little set screws on there, just to keep the door close to this. So you'll see what happens. Now this is a bit warm up here. I'm going to have to do something about that, or I should have a glove on, because the heat, I made a heat deflector. So when the heat comes out, it deflects it up and away so it doesn't overheat this part of the forge. I put a heat deflector on both sides. Again, 1/4 inch steel to do that. I even brushed a little of the HT100 on it, reflective, so that'll help that. Let me see if I can grab a hold of this handle. If I can grab a hold of this handle, see if I pull up, my door just raises up and down. I'm not going to go all the way up because I'm trying to keep the heat in. I want this to slowly cool down to make that HT 100 ceramic coating cool slowly. I don't want it to crack. It just makes the inside of the forge, really, they say about 30% more efficient. I've used it for years, and it works good on my other forges. It's just, it wasn't the coating was the problem, it was the forge. So hopefully I'll let you know how this one, once I haven't forged anything with it. But I just went ahead and I put some support bars on the top because there's no clamping screws across the front because of the way I made the door. Excuse me. But hopefully it should work out fine. I went ahead and just welded the corners up. They're not gorgeous. This thing was not meant for beauty. It was just meant for practicality. I've tentatively named her Forgezilla, which I kind of like. My son-in-law said it kind of had a steampunk look, whatever that means. I think it has something to do with looking like valves and fittings. So I guess that's the case. My forge stand, I've used this for years. I had to retrofit it a little bit. I'll show you a little bit how that works. I've got these sliders underneath here, so I can slide these in. So when I put material in different lengths, I've got another one somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to slide this one in, and then they've got set screws up underneath here. You can see the set screws. What they do is just anchor. It just takes the slop out of it so it gets it level. And I had to make some new ones because this forge is quite a bit taller than my other forge. So once I put these on, as you can see down through there, I've got a nice level plane for laying my material through there. So hopefully it ought to work. That's really about it. Like I said, this is my first one to ever build. I've owned Forge Master. It was a good forge. I owned it and worked it for several years. Matter of fact, my old Forge Master is sitting underneath the table there, and it was a good forge. Just the problem I had with it is just too small. It was a 2-burner. You can see it down there. I kind of keep it as a backup. It still works. I had another one that I didn't care for, and I'm not gonna run somebody's product down like that. I just it just wasn't for me. Probably may work good for other people, but in my application, it just didn't hold up. So anyway, I hope this one holds up for me. It should. If I have problems, I have something happen that I think you ought to know about, I'll bring it back up, because look, I'm not afraid to say I made a mistake about something. So, but it's just a lot of plate, a lot of welding, totally rebuildable. If something burns up on that 1/4 inch, like angle iron, whatever, I can just cut it off and re-weld another piece on. But hopefully it's going to service me well. So those of you interested, I just thought I'd put a little video out about it. I'll tell you the dimensions of the firebox. What I did, I ended up with it's actually a 5-inch opening, but because of my insulating blocks that I put in the corner, I just stood some blocks up in the corner. They're kind of compressed by the top. The opening, I think, ended up being about 4.5 across there, something like that. 4.5 to maybe a little over 5, maybe a little over 4.5, 4 3/4 opening there. But the nice part was having a 6-inch opening, up and down this way. That really helped out a lot, because I put a lot of things in here, and when you're doing bigger pieces, to be able to get them in there, especially you scrolled the end of something, or you've made a big leaf thing and you're trying to get it in and out of the forge, you got some room. The interior of the firebox is a full, and this is where the way I did it, I did a full 9 inches. It's 9 inches front to back, because of the way I did the door. Now the door was interesting. A lot of times doors are a problem because people use a hard, like what I've got inside on the top and the side. It's kind of a hard board insulating. What I did, I had a friend who's a potter, and he had some broken pieces of shelves that they use in the kiln. And I literally, they're like, I don't know, they're like 3/4 inch thick or 5/8 thick. They were a pill to cut, but I cut those for the width of my door. And so they basically are just setting in here. Matter of fact, they're not even held in place. As you can see, I put some little plates right here, so when I raise it up, they don't just fall out. So they just keep them in. They're just loose, and that's one reason I put the adjustment screws. Once I set it down, I just lightly snug them, then I back them off a little bit. I don't want them too tight because it's going to expand with heat. So my door, if you can see in there, it's just ceramic board. I mean, it's hard and heavy. So hopefully that's going to take the punishment. Because, you know, if you use a gas forge, when you're sticking stuff in and out, you know, you end up damaging all this right here because you throw it in there too quick. And this is the weakest spot on any forge is the entry points. I could have done them with brick there, but I decided if I make the opening big enough and I'm careful enough, I should do okay. If they don't perform there, I may slice some brick and just put brick on both sides and use that if these don't hold up. And that's the great thing about this forge. I can totally do whatever I want to it with common materials. I bought this on Amazon, the board. It was like 20 by 40 inches piece of board. It worked out fine. So anyway, there it is. No paint. Don't need it. Wouldn't stay anyway, probably. And hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, just holler back at me, and I'll see if I can help you answer them. The thing I didn't know about a lot was I'm not a forge expert. I don't claim to be a gas forge expert. All you guys have probably built tons of these things. I just did some research, and it said a 3-burner, 3/4 inch pipe burner would, if you use 3 of them, you get basically around 1,000 cubic inches of space. And my space is about 900 and some odd, it's under maybe 950, 900 some odd cubic inches of interior space. So the 3 burners is perfect size for it. And you know how it is. If you only just want to heat up one end, you can turn one burner on and do stuff on one end. That's usually not a problem. 1 or 2 burners. You can leave that 3rd burner off if you want to. When I do that, I've got a piece of, when I do that, on this particular burner, if I'm gonna shut off the 3rd burner, I lay a piece of steel on there to keep the heat from rising up through there and cooking that valve, because that heat will rise up and come up. So I put a little piece of steel in there to block that heat from going up in there, from traveling up there too bad. I really need one a little bit wider than that to go in there. But if I'm running the burner off, I always put that in there. So I need to just lay that up there where I've got it. So that's what that's for. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. I've also got a place here at the front where I can bring this same arm around here if I need to open the front. And sometimes when I'm doing larger pieces, I want to slide them in the front. I have a rest right there. That works fine too. So anyway, y'all have a blessed day, and just take care of yourselves. God bless.